Savitri, Book 1, the Book of Beginnings, Canto 1, the Symbol Dawn. It was the hour before the gods awake. Sri Aurobindo begins the epic Savitri and its first canto, the Symbol Dawn, with this line. This line about the beginning of this epic is also about the beginning of creation itself. Literally speaking, the hour before the gods awake refers in India to the Brahma Muhurta. Brahma Muhurta is about 4 a.m. in the morning when all the temples open up and the gods are awoken. This is a literal understanding, but we see the cosmic significance of the hour before the gods awake as the cosmic powers that will open up the various activities of the day. Even beyond that, at a further and more profound level, the hour before the gods awake is the beginning of creation itself. It is a new dawn of entire creation and the appearance of the divine in a becoming, a new becoming. Sri Aurobindo expands on this particular movement of the coming of a new cosmic becoming out of an original seed of disappearance, of nothingness, of a void, symboled by the night in the next few lines. Across the path of the divine event, the huge foreboding mind of night, alone in her unlit temple of eternity, lay stretched immobile upon silence's marge. On the margins of silence, spelt with a capital S, in other words, an original and infinite silence, the unmanifest, the eternally unmanifest, there is a power of a gate of night. And this night is like a unlit temple of eternity. In other words, this night carries in itself the presage, the prophecy of a new becoming, a new dawn, a new divinity which is held within its bosom. So this image of an event which will occur, which is the coming of a day out of the womb of the night, out of the temple of the night, is a very profound cosmic image that goes back to the Vedas and speaks about something which is the entire eternal succession of days and nights. The successions of days and nights are an image by which the paradox of time and eternity is configured. When we think about the divine as an eternity, the silence on whose marge or margin this night, profound night stands or is stretched, we realize that this divine infinite being has always more and more of it that can become. And therefore there is always infinitely more of it that is unmanifest. At the borders of this unmanifest is a original non-being, a non-being in terms of experience, not in terms of the identity of Supreme Being, but out of this power of experience of the infinite, there emerges newer and newer powers of becoming. So this is what the image of the emergence of a day as an event, a phenomenon, an eternal event against the backdrop of eternity, creating time, moving into manifestation. Almost one felt opaque, impenetrable, in the somber symbol of her eyeless muse, the abyssum of the unbodied infinite. This eyeless muse refers to a beginning of things where the power of sensing has not arisen. There is no power of experience here. In the Aitareya Upanishad, the whole creation begins out of a dark state of the unmanifest, where first the being that is latent within it emerges through its properties of experience, the sense organs. The Purusha awakens, they say, with its powers of sensing. So here, prior to that awakening, there is a eyeless muse, a muse prior to the power of experience. And this is a reflection, a shadow of the unbodied infinite, which is the original unmanifest, the eternal unmanifest. And it is a shadow because this is already in the realm of being. The shadow cast by non-being on the realm of being, almost one felt, opaque, impenetrable. In the somber symbol of her eyeless muse, that symbol is the night. Night is the symbol of non-being in being. So this is how we first arrive at this image, which is like an event, not in time but in eternity. An event in eternity, like a image out of which a succession that relates to time will emerge. A succession of days and nights, of births and deaths, of the ages, of the rebirths of the creation. A fathomless zero occupied the world. This is the pregnant zero, filled with the contents of eternity, but hidden. Sri Aurobindo talks about the two major powers of Sat and Asat, being and non-being, relating to two activities of consciousness, pravritti and nivritti. Pravritti, the tendency to become, to unfold, to reveal the contents of the infinite in a becoming, and nivritti, the tendency towards the enfolding, towards the concealment, towards the latency of the infinite powers of conscious being. Here we find the zero is that nivritti, out of which something can come. But inside this latency of things is the involvement or the involuted spirit, is being involved in non-being. This involution and evolution is a eternal recurrence that is at the very basis of creation, and that is the paradox which creates time. And Sri Aurobindo is taking us to that image of the beginning. It is a paradox because the paradox related to the old question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Which came first, the seed or the tree? Which came first, the night or the day? There is no first because eternity is beginningless and endless. Yet it images itself through an act of consciousness as an eternal, beginningless and endless succession of days and nights, of coming into becoming and of enfolding itself into its own unmanifest condition. A power of fallen, boundless self awake between the first and the last nothingness, recalling the tenebrous womb from which it came, turned from the insoluble mystery of birth and the tardy process of mortality, and longed to reach its end in vacant naught. So, in this condition, there is a profound nothingness, a profound night, but within it there is a power which has awoken, or which is beginning to awake. It is a power of fallen, boundless self, awake between the first and the last nothingness. The first and the last nothingness again is that same beginningless and endless paradox which moves towards, or which envisages the possibility or the limit condition, the image of a beginning or an ending, in the fact of this dark night of all things. But that's why it recalls the tenebrous womb from which it came. In this possibility is the tenebrous womb. It refers also to the Vedic great hymn of creation, the Nasadiya Sukta, in which out of the unmanifest waters of the infinite being, that being himself awakens, comes into existence, Swayambhu, by his own power, comes into becoming. So this is the tenebrous womb from which it came. But the awakening that he's talking about, the power that is awake in the night, is not the original power of being. He is talking about a specific manner of becoming, a specific manifestation, that in which we find ourselves. And that is one in which being has awoken in or out of non-being and has been compelled to return to non-being innumerable times. This power that has awoken is not an original power that has awoken out of its own strength, Swayambhu, as in the Nasadiya Sukta, but a power that has been compelled to awake and compelled to die repeatedly. This is the condition of this manifestation, in which the days and nights, the becomings, the rebirths are all a kind of progression that is reaching towards greater and greater fulfillment of its own self-knowledge through a power of compulsion or an experienced compulsion, which is an act of consciousness. Therefore, this boundless self that is awake within the night is experiencing within itself the two poles of a desire to wake up and a desire to go back to sleep, a weariness, a sense of having awoken innumerable times and having failed innumerable times, not wanting to enter into this becoming anymore. So it says it longed to reach its end in vacant naught. As in a dark beginning of all things, Sri Aurobindo will keep using phrases which refer to the simile of a beginning. As in a dark beginning, almost one felt, recalling the tenebrous womb, because this beginning is a middle. It is a middle in Savitri itself, in the epic Savitri. It is a middle because there is no beginning and no end, yet the limit condition, the possibility, the image in eternity of the divine event is what it recalls. A mute, featureless semblance of the unknown, repeating forever the unconscious act, prolonging forever the unseeing will, cradled the cosmic drowse of ignorant force, whose moved creative slumber kindles the suns and carries our lives in its somnambulist whirl. So this semblance of the unknown over here is the original night, that dark beginning of all things which is being reflected here, which is being shadowed here. And in the Devi Mahatmyam, they speak of three kinds of night. They speak of Kala Ratri, Maharatri and Moharatri. We may say Kala Ratri is the night of time and timelessness, where time sinks into timelessness. The original night, Asat, Avyakta, that particular night out of which everything begins, the original, what is called dark beginning of all things. But then there is a cosmic night, Maharatri, what may be called the shadow of that night in the becoming. And that is a inconscience, an original inconscience, where everything is still in a state of latency, but run by inconscient laws, laws of gravitation, laws of a variety of material phenomena. So that somnambulist world is what Sri Aurobindo is referring to here, the night of inconscience. This is the dark seed of the cosmos. Athwart the vain enormous trance of space, its formless stupor without mind or life, a shadow spinning through a soulless void, thrown back once more into unthinking dreams, earth wheeled, abandoned in the hollow gulfs, forgetful of her spirit and her fate. So in this condition, this cosmic material condition of inconscience, earth is being highlighted now by Sri Aurobindo as a seed or the beautiful globe, a sphere with consciousness latent in it, but which has become extinct in it at this time. It has forgotten its destiny, and it has mind and life have no longer are no longer present in it. They have emerged and gone back to sleep in a new cycle. The impassive skies were neutral, empty, still. Then something in the inscrutable darkness stirred. This completes the first phase of this particular passage, because here in this inconscience there is the beginning of something awakening, a stirring. In the Indian tradition, in the Tantras, this is known as spanda, a vibration, the original vibration of Chit in Sat, reflected here in the form of the awakening of a memory of consciousness within the inconscient. A nameless movement, an unthought idea, insistent, dissatisfied, without an aim, something that wished but knew not how to be, teased the inconscient to wake ignorance. This power, which doesn't even know what it is, leave alone who it is, this power which is just a beginning of some semblance of possibility of self-knowledge, is teasing, is shaking the dumb inconscient, the Maharatri of inconscient, to wake up ignorance. This ignorance is the Moharatri. This is the power of consciousness awakening out of the inconscient. It is still a power of consciousness that is so ignorant of what its truth is, of what its reality is, that it creates by its own power to remain what it is, the entire possibility of falsehood, a will to remain ignorant. That is the moha, or the false night of the becoming, out of which truth must emerge. A throw that came and left a quivering trace gave room for an old tired want unfilled, at peace in its subconscient moonless cave, to raise its head and look for absent light, straining closed eyes of vanished memory, like one who searches for a bygone self and only meets the corpse of his desire. This power waking up remembers very faintly, stirs with the memory of a innumerable past in which it has been born and in which it has died, doesn't remember what it was. It is the corpse of a desire, a dead man waking up. It is that kind of a straining closed eyes of vanished memory, but it retains within itself that particular urge to seek for absent light. It is the aspiration, the seed of aspiration, which is the divine element, the divine consciousness, Chit Shakti, at the heart of the inconscient, which is going to be the first movement that will call down in response to its aspiration the divine grace from above, the event that is awaited, that Sri Aurobindo is talking about, and in a sense the symbol of the intervention in time that is represented by the incarnation of Savitri, and that is represented by Sri Aurobindo and the mother's own teaching and work that they are introducing to us over here. Sri Aurobindo speaks of two movements at the center of the creation, of the evolution, and at the center in an accelerated way of the thing called yoga, which is the center of the integral yoga, which is the center of his teaching. It is an aspiration that calls from below and a grace that answers from above. In the beginning of creation, there is first the vibration of that aspiration. It was as if even in this knots profound, even in this ultimate dissolution's core, there lurked an unremembering entity, survivor of a slain and buried past, condemned to resume the effort and the pang, reviving in another frustrate world. A very complex few lines in which he introduces us to the fact that this entity, this power of awakening, is a being in the heart of the appearance of non-being, the inconscient. And this being is something which carries the memory of innumerable births and deaths before, and feels that it is being compelled to be born and die, condemned, and also the sense of a repeated failure, that sense of frustration, condemned to resume the effort and the pang every time it has labored, like a labor of Sisyphus. The Greek myths have this idea of Sisyphus who pushes a stone up a mountain, and when it reaches the peak of the mountain, the stone falls back. It has to go back and push it again the next day. And this is like the days and nights that are recurring, laboring to release some ultimate Godhead that will transcend this property of compulsion to being born and die, but being forced to do so. An unshaped consciousness desired light, and a blank prescience yearned towards distant change. Now suddenly that aspiration is shown to be the property of a psychic reality within the earth, the psychic being of the earth, which has a relationship with the cosmos, not just that of Sisyphus, who is trying to blindly push his own effort against the compulsion of death and night, but a divine power in relation with the transcendent, who is like the divine mother to it. To this psychic understanding of the aspiration, the vast the vast cosmos of inconscience becomes the semblance of the divine mother, whom he is calling, whose hem he is tugging and saying, "Wake up, I've woken up, you too wake up and intervene in this world. Come down." This is exactly the message of Savitri, this intervention. Ashwapati represents that aspiration, and Savitri will be the response of the Divine Mother. As if a childlike finger laid on a cheek, reminded of the endless need in things, the heedless mother of the universe, an infant longing clutched the somber vast. This aspiration now is changed, it's transformed its character to be a child's call to its mother. Insensibly, somewhere a breach began. This concludes this section of the canto dawn, because of the symbol dawn, because here we find a response from this cosmic and divine mother. There is a tearing of the darkness and a fringe of light that suddenly intervenes into the darkness of night. Arrived from the other side of boundlessness, from the Avyakta, an eye of deity pierced through the dumb deeps. So this is the intervention, the eye of God that is piercing the night. A scout in a reconnaissance from the sun, it seemed amid a heavy cosmic rest, the torpor of a sick and weary world, to seek for a spirit, soul and desolate, too fallen to recollect forgotten bliss. So this response of the sun, of the ray of the sun, is coming into the night to seek for its child. Where are you, my child? In this world which is too weary to even wake up, too sick, too frustrated, too dead. Where are you? Where is my portion here? Intervening in a mindless universe, its message crept through the reluctant hush. There is a stir, a universal wide stir resultant from this intervention, calling the adventure of consciousness and joy, and conquering nature's disillusioned breast, compelled renewed consent to see and feel. All the senses wake up. There is a sudden hope that arises in the middle of the creation, and there is a sense that our mother is here, a God power is here. We are here to wake up and resume our conscious effort at a eventual awakening. A thought was sown in the unsounded void. This intervention causes a seed to be sown in the night. And this is the seed of a new birth, the seed of a new age, the seed of a new law and principle of consciousness that the intervention brings. A sense was born within the darkness's depths. A memory quivered in the heart of time, as if a soul long dead were moved to live, but the oblivion that succeeds the fall had blotted the crowded memory tablets of the past, and all that was destroyed must be rebuilt, and old experience labored out once more. So though there comes this hope, there is a sense of everything that has been lost to the succeeding deaths of consciousness. And then Sri Aurobindo has this wonderful line, all can be done if the God touch is there. If the divine power is here, if the breath of the divine is here, if the grace is here, we have hope once again. Hope gets kindled in our hearts. We know there is a power that can overcome everything. A hope stole in that hardly dared to be amid the night's forlorn indifference. This is the beginning of the creation, and yet this is a special creation, a creation that will transcend the recurring cycles of days and night, which is the law of the ignorance. This is a special intervention that is represented by this symbol dawn and by the incarnation of Savitri. Along with it comes the opening up of the gates of a new divine manifestation. Usha comes, the divine daughter of the sun, and she creates a complete eradication of the power of night. The darkness failed and slipped like a falling cloak from the reclining body of a god. It reveals the body of the divine. It makes manifest the pravritti of the coming into becoming of the Supreme Being. Then through a pallid rift that seemed at first hardly enough for a trickle from the suns, outpoured the revelation and the flame. Not only an eye of deity piercing the dumb deeps, but a complete eradication, a routing of the night. Outpoured the revelation and the flame. The brief perpetual sign recurred above. The sun arose. The brief perpetual sign, we can take it to be the sun, because it repeats again and again like a sign, like a symbol. But we can also take it to be the symbol of Sri Aurobindo, the ascending and descending triangles which represent the involution and the evolution of consciousness, the aspiration and the grace that actually cause this evolution to occur. This, at the center of them, is the divine lotus of the avatar and the house of the new creation. This is what we see as a hidden reference in the brief perpetual sign, the recurring above. A glamour from the unreached transcendences, iridescent with the glory of the unseen, a message from the unknown immortal light, ablaze upon creation's quivering edge. Dawn built her aura of magnificent hues and buried its seed of grandeur in the hours. An instant's visitor, the Godhead shone. On life's thin border awhile the vision stood and bent over earth's pondering forehead curve. Sri Aurobindo transforms now the image of the sun into that of the Divine Mother, the Divine Shakti, the incarnation, the avataric mission of Savitri herself, who has come bending over the earth like a mother over her children. It also gives us a hint of an image of Sri Aurobindo's companion and collaborator, the mother at Pondicherry, with her little stoop, bending over all the activities of the ashram and all her children who move to her as the Divine Mother. Suddenly, a new presence is felt. Once more a tread perturbed the vacant vasts. Infinity's center, a face of rapturous calm, parted the eternal lids that open heaven. And in this multiple symbol we see not merely the sun, but the face of the Divine Mother who has incarnated. Her eyes opening are the lids that open heaven. A form from far beatitude seemed to near, ambassadress twixt eternity and change. The omniscient goddess leaned across the breadths that wrapped the fated journeyings of the stars and saw the spaces ready for her feet. The divine incarnation will appear. Once she half looked behind for her veiled son, daughter of the sun, incarnation of the solar supramental power. She looks behind to see her source. Then, thoughtful, went to her immortal work. Earth felt the imperishable's passage close. The waking ear of nature heard her steps, and wideness turned to her its limitless eye, and scattered on sealed depths her luminous smile, kindled to fire the silence of the worlds. Suddenly her presence kindles everything to a blazing aspiration. The entire power of nature on earth becomes the adoration of the divine. All grew a consecration and a rite. Air was a vibrant link between earth and heaven. The wide-winged hymn of a great priestly wind arose and failed upon the altar hills. The high boughs prayed in a revealing sky. The whole of nature becomes a tremendous aspiration and adoration of the incarnate divine. And then Sri Aurobindo speaks about what it means to the earth. Here where our half-lit ignorance skirts the gulfs on the dumb bosom of the ambiguous earth, here where one knows not even the step in front, and truth has her throne on the shadowy back of doubt, on this anguished and precarious field of toil, outspread beneath some large indifferent gaze, impartial witness to our joy and bale, our prostrate soil bore the awakening ray. The divine intervention coming to the earth, which has released only the powers of ignorance so far, matter, life, mind, at most a power of knowledge covered with doubt. Every step is dogged by ignorance. There, the supramental power of full knowledge, truth, self-consciousness has entered as a seed. Our earth bears this awakening ray. After this, the next few lines, Sri Aurobindo talks about the receding of this power. The messianic, avataric power comes and leaves, but it leaves a seed. And when it leaves, it cannot stay because the ignorance cannot assimilate it at once. It is like a freak that comes for a moment, but it is also a promise, a prophecy of the future where man will assimilate it through time. Then the divine afflatus spent withdrew, unwanted, fading from the mortal's range. A sacred yearning lingered in its trace, the worship of a presence and a power too perfect to be held by death-bound hearts, the prescience of a marvelous birth to come. Sri Aurobindo talks about an intervention throughout Savitri and in his teaching, and the intervention of a messianic nature, a future that is not a predictable past, is also the idea of the avatar. Sri Aurobindo deals with a variety of possibilities and aspects of the avatar, but one of them is the aspect represented by the Christ, the aspect of the sacrifice, of the coming and of the unwanted reception and of the withdrawal, leaving in its wake a seed for a future perfection. And so that is how this particular canto moves to its end, to the disappearance of this particular power. And Sri Aurobindo says, so now dissolved in bright accustomed air, the message ceased and waned the messenger. The single call, the uncompanioned power, drew back into some far-off secret world the hue and marvel of the supernal beam. She looked no more on our mortality. The excess of beauty natural to Godkind could not uphold its claim on time-born eyes. Too mystic real for space tenancy. The reality of this power of intervention is not something that we are accustomed to. It is, in a sense, a symbolic and veiled reality that we take to be real. Her body of glory was expunged from heaven. The rarity and wonder lived no more. But she leaves the seed, and the future will unfold the seed. And Sri Aurobindo talks about the people, the creatures who will carry this in their particular work, in their labor. There was the common light of earthly day, affranchised from the respite of fatigue. Once more the rumour of the speed of life pursued the cycles of her blinded quest. All sprang to their unvarying daily acts. The thousand peoples of the soil and tree obeyed the unforeseen instant's urge, and leader here with his uncertain mind, alone who stares at the future's covered face, man lifted up the burden of his fate. So man is the bearer of the legacy of this intervention.